That is not the message of the manosphere or red pill bros. This is the message that is resonating. The Aiden Rosses and Theo Vons and Andrew Schultzes of the world may not be influencing the values of young men en masse to change an entire generation, but that's okay, actually. And we don't need to be freaking out when the next negative headline from Rolling Stone magazine tries to convince you young men are abandoning ship. Actually, it's fantastic that those are not the people influencing the values of an entire generation, because for the last decade, there have been real people changing values for young men. I can't even believe this needs to be said again because it's so obvious, but this is how completely oblivious the media actually is that we need to spell it out for them on a silver platter. It is no surprise or secret that young men are becoming overwhelmingly based. I wrote a book about this over a year ago. My book, The End of the Alphabet, How Gen Z Can Save America, came out in March of 2024. We went on every major news outlet possible, every radio station, every podcast, every TV network, and even conservative media was like, yeah, that's a nice pipe dream that Gen Z is so conservative, but when pigs fly, I guess. And then we all saw the avalanche of support from young people, mostly Gen Z men, that decisively delivered a victory to Donald Trump and overwhelmingly is reshaping the face of conservative politics in America. All of that has been happening for a very, very long time, this shift generationally back to the right. And it is all because of real people who simply had the courage to tell the truth to young men. The voice of a generation is not Theo Von on a comedy podcast, which is funny and entertaining, and I like that content. It's not Andrew Schultz laughing with a bunch of bros about stuff guys talk about. That's good content, and I'm glad people have that for entertainment. It's not people watching live streams for gaming or even listening to a multi-hour-long Joe Rogan interview. Those things are entertaining and they are interesting, but what has transformed the values of an entire generation of young men are not those people. It's the Charlie Kirks and the Matt Walshes and the Michael Knowles and the Tucker Carlsons of the world that have been planting seeds for the last decade on their specific message for young men that has gotten us to where we are at in 2025. No one did this better, make no mistake about it, than Charlie Kirk, who consistently gave the same advice to young men and I think is becoming louder even now after he is dead.
My great hope is the spiritual hope. That the young men that are lost, and if any young man is listening to this right now, like stop watching porn, stop, smoking weed, stop drinking endlessly, find yourself back to church. That will reorient your life.
I agree.
And do what the church tells you to do. Find a woman, marry her, provide, have more kids than you can afford. That's my advice for young men.
Yeah.
Name me a single red pill podcast bro that is saying that on their podcast. Newsflash, they're not. They're not. But it's the courage of people like Charlie Kirk to say that to young men, knowing that that's the craziest, most radical, outlandish line of suggestions you could possibly have given to young people over the past few years. Stop watching porn, go to church, get married, have more kids than you can afford, take ownership over your health, have responsibility for your life. Your life is your fault. And that's a good thing, actually, because you have the jurisdiction to change your world and the world around you. And because of the courage of people like Charlie Kirk and others in the conservative movement, we're now seeing those values come to life. You will not hear the Andrew Schultzes of the world telling you those things, but you will hear Matt Walsh tell young men those things.
But in general, we have to encourage as much as we can, encourage young people to, especially young men, to be bold and to go out into the world and get married and have kids. And even though there are a lot of risks involved, there are more risks today in doing that than there would have been for our grandparents. There are more risks than there should be. And that's part of living in a declining civilization is that doing things like that, it makes you vulnerable. That's true. But especially when you're young, like that's a time for risk taking, for intelligent risks, for that we don't want to be reckless with our risks, but taking intelligent risks and going out and getting married and starting a family, it is a risk, but it's a smart risk. And, it gives meaning to your life, because I think that's a lot of what we're missing. A lot of what feeds this is there's a collapse in meaning. People they don't know where to look for meaning and for purpose in their life.
How can you find meaning or purpose? Live boldly, take risks, do what everyone is telling you not to do. Don't just follow along with what's popular. Be radically countercultural. And when people tell you not to get married, go get married anyway. When people tell you not to have children because it's destroying the planet or taking away from your bank account or making you set up to have to pay alimony for the rest of your life and child support, go have more children than you think you can possibly afford. That's not the manosphere. That is the young male revolution that we've seen play out in the last few years. And it's not just podcasters. Look at athletes like Harrison Butker giving similar advice to young men.
I'm very passionate about encouraging men to be courageous, to not be afraid to be the leader. It's something that we struggle with, I think, a lot of times, to go outside of our comfort zone and to say, you know what? God has called me to be a leader and to lead by example. I'm going to lead my household, and I'm going to lead outside the world when I'm evangelizing. So that's something that I'm very passionate about.
Be a leader. Be courageous. Practice virtue. Lead yourself. Lead your family. Lead your world. God, I'm so grateful that we have courageous voices like this, because this is what is transforming society day by day by day. I didn't remember this until recently, but way back when in 2018, when I was an intern in the Trump White House, as a college student, they did this little mini speakers series for us as White House interns, where they brought in senior cabinet officials or senior staff at the White House to talk to us about leadership skills or career development and just helping to get our feet in the right direction as we graduated from college and moved beyond this internship, hopefully to take on new jobs in government like many people did. And randomly, in the midst of all the cabinet secretaries coming to talk to us and really high people in the administration, the White House internship program in 2018 brought in Tucker Carlson for an afternoon. I don't even know if he remembers that he did this, but I was sitting in the audience, and he brought himself, the White House brought him in to talk to about 150 White House interns about his advice for their career and how they can use this experience to propel their generation moving forward, to all of us new Gen Zers in college and taking on the world by storm as we grew up. And I had forgotten that he said this until I was prepping for today's episode. But back then in 2018, Tucker upset a lot of people and ruffled a lot of feathers because he looked at all of us White House interns that had the world by the horns and we're ready to storm into battle for our careers, ready to serve our country in a career sense and a job sense. And he said, honestly, nothing that you are being told in this speaker series matters. It doesn't. You're going to have a great job and you're going to have a great career, sure, but everybody's going to tell you that. None of that actually matters in the grand scheme of your life. The only thing that matters, the only thing is that you go home, you go back to college, you get married as young as humanly possible, way before you think you're ready. You have 5 kids when you know you can't afford it, and you raise them in value and in virtue. And I remember hearing so many snickers and laughs and people being like, what the heck is this guy talking about? This is insane. This is supposed to be career development for Gen Z. But Tucker got it back then, and he still gets it even now. This is the message that is resonating with young men today.
Last piece of advice for young people: get married.
Yeah, get married and have a ton of kids. I mean, get married when you're too young, have more kids than you can afford, take a job you're not qualified for, live boldly, stop getting high, stop doing anything that blurs your vision or makes time go faster. You're going to die before you know it. Don't waste a second. That's the sin, is living thoughtlessly and wasting time. It's the one thing you can't get back.
You're going to die before you know it. Ooh, I thought I was done crying about this. I can't believe he said that to Charlie quite recently. I think that was at one of the conferences in the last few months. Wow. Take ownership of your life. Stop getting high. Stop letting everything cloud your judgment and your vision. Wake up with a clear heart and mind every day. Get married, have children, be healthy, serve your community and your country. That is not the message of the manosphere or red pill bros. But it is the message that has successfully transformed, changed fundamentally an entire generation. It is God-fearing Christian husbands and fathers who are authentically sharing their stories that have inspired the masses. And ding, 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 it freaking worked, by the way. Young men are more based than any generation in modern history. Not because they voted for Donald Trump, although that's a nice little feather in everybody's cap and something that we're still celebrating from last November. No, young men are based and conservative because they are looking to conserve their own identity, to preserve their values, to bring what made Western civilization so great forward, not at the political national level, but individually in their own lives, following this exact message from Tucker Carlson and Harrison Butker and Charlie Kirk and Matt Walsh and all of the other courageous, God-fearing men of the conservative movement that had the courage to tell young men the truth when it was not a popular thing to do at all. There was no bandwagon to jump on like a 2024 election from the podcast bros. This was brick by brick by brick for over a decade to get us to where we are now in 2025, thanks to honest and authentic courage. And building those little bricks is what has transformed people's day-to-day lives.